What's going on, family? It is lovely to see you again. It is your boy Zamboni. I am a musician and astrologer, and it is time to talk about the astrology of the week ahead. As always, I thank you so very much for being here. Thank you for hitting me up on Venmo, Cash App, PayPal. Send me a little tip if you find this information to be useful. Thank you for going to Spotify, Tidal, Pandora, Amazon Music, wherever you like to get your music. Checking out Breathe, checking out Can't Help Myself. I'm very proud of that music. Thank you for telling me how you feel about that music or that breath exercise. Send me a DM or put it in the comment section or something like that. I super appreciate hearing about that. If you want to go to Patreon and get an electional report to help you time your life and the important things that are going on, send the important email at the right time that will help to multiply the force that you input there, then you can find that on Patreon, etc., etc. You can go to zambonifunk.com and find all the things that I forgot to say here, like an astrology reading, for example. Let's talk about the astrology of the week ahead. So this week is finally, it's like D-Day up in here. I've been talking about this shit for mad long, from 2023, from the beginning of 2023. It's been all Saturn, everything. Now we are finally moving. Saturn is moving away from Aquarius and moving into Pisces this week. So this is a very big deal. Saturn has been in rulership. Saturn has been ruling his damn self and oftentimes everybody else in the sky for a long time, for 5 years now, from late December of 2017. Then we've had Saturn in Capricorn, and then later we had Saturn in Aquarius. That's a bunch of super strong Saturn stuff. So whenever we think about Saturn, we've got the organization, the management, the authoritative rulership, this kind of thing, right? The tax man is associated with Saturn, or misers of any sort, elders, authorities, old people, that kind of thing. So Saturn, super strong during that time. We had widespread lockdowns and all of the rest, right? This sort of like, cloistering situation has happened throughout that time. Now Saturn is going to move into Pisces, and not only is Saturn going to move into Pisces, but Saturn is going to be in Pisces with Neptune for the duration of Saturn's time in Pisces. And then after that, we've got Saturn moving into Aries in a couple of years. We're talking about 2026 at this point. And so Saturn's going to move into Aries. And you know who else is going to be there in Aries? That's right, it's Neptune. So we're really seeing this. So Saturn, who is strong with the like walls, boundaries, borders, these kinds of things. That's like strong Saturn energy. Neptune, on the other hand, is big on disillusion. Neptune. My favorite way to think about Neptune is like, oh man, it's really all the one stuff. Those borders aren't really real. Like the kind of like inherent unity of the cosmos. Neptune loves to talk about that shit, which can then get confusing, right? As soon as you realize that everything is all one, then it's like, well, what even am? And everything gets really confusing, right? And so so I like to think about Saturn as kind of being at the edge, right? The Saturn is the thing that sort of gives you the structure that makes it possible for you to even think a thought at all, right? And so Saturn and Neptune are getting together for the next 5 years or so. And so what happens when the borders, the boundaries, start to dissolve, stop being quite as rigid and structured as they've been for the past 5 years, right? It's been a whole bunch of really strong Saturn. So let's put a pin in that. We'll come back to that. Saturn moving into Pisces is going to put Saturn onto the mutable axis. So that's going to mean that instead of the moon or anyone else moving through fixed signs and having to interface with Saturn, it's going to mean that for the next 3 years, every time a planet moves into a mutable sign, that's going to be Gemini, Pisces, Sagittarius, Virgo, in no particular order. Those are the 4 mutable signs. Anytime a planet goes into one of those signs, then it's going to have to interface with Saturn for the next bit of time here, right? And so this is interesting because for the past, since September or so, this past September, Mars moved into Gemini and started interfacing on that same axis, right? And so Mars has been retrograde in Gemini. Mars has been forward and backward and now forward again in Gemini. And so, with that sort of like back and forth situation, there's rage, there's inflammation, there's irritation, there's a push to move. I talked a lot about having to reevaluate the plan and, as a result of having sat on attack, right? So you sit on the attack and you're like, this is terrible. It motivates you to get up, right? That's that Mars motivation. You stand up, you're like, okay, how can we change this situation, right? So Mars retrograde is supposed to be over and done in about 7 to 8 months. 7 to 8 months feels like a real long time for a Mars transit, but it gets done in that period of time. This time, that's not what's going to happen. As Saturn moves into Pisces, then Saturn is going to take a long, hard look at all that same stuff. So the Mars stuff was like, so it's the situation, so the tack in the chair, right? So you thought that you were going to sit on the tack, get up and be like, oh, I got to move this tack out the way. But then as you start to do that, then you start to realize that like maybe it's in the inherent nature of the chair to be maybe this chair is made of tacks or something like this, you know what I mean? Like there's a longer situation that is going on here. It's not going to be the quick and simple, easy fix that you thought it was going to be. It's going to be this sort of situation where it's like, oh, well, we really have to look at this for the next 3 years and see like, how are we going to navigate this? How are we going to change the structures, the borders, the boundaries, the organization? How are we going to deal with the inherent infrastructure of the thing in order to change what we're actually dealing with here? Now, so that's really, all that stuff is likely to really come out in a big way this week. So if you are the journaling type, you know I stay recommending that journal. If you are the type of person who does some kind of journaling or some kind of, like the data collection on yourself, on your own life, then this is going to be a really good week to check that out because we've also got the full moon going on this week. So the full moon in Virgo is going to be opposite to the sun. Full moon is always opposite to the sun. Also, full moon in Virgo, which is ruled by Mercury, is going to be opposite to Mercury in Pisces. Now, Mercury in Pisces, that's opposite to its rulership, opposite to its exaltation. That means that Mercury is far, far away from home, is in an uncomfortable place in Pisces. So Jupiter and Neptune are really good in Pisces. Pisces wants to do this big, expansive, it's all the one stuff. We can think about deep ocean dynamics, like is it ever, like it's all water in here, it's all the soup of everything, right? Pisces loves that dynamic. Get really good poetry, song, melody, artistic expressions of all types, symbolism, metaphor, all that stuff really strong in Pisces, right? Mercury, on the other hand, prefers data. Mercury prefers to sort of sort things into the little boxes, make sure, filing cabinets. Mercury loves a good filing cabinet or the Dewey Decimal System or this kind of thing. Mercury loves that shit. So you put Mercury into Pisces and in the soup of things, and things start to get a little weird. Again, this is really good for melody. It's not necessarily really good for discrete communication. It's not really good for like whole numbers that make integers and shit like that, right? Like that's not how this space works. So with the full moon in Virgo, that's going to want to clean things. It's going to want to organize things. It's going to want to sort of make sense of whatever data is around. Because this full moon in Virgo is square to Mars in Gemini, then we're likely to be looking back at all of this Mars in Gemini, Mars retrograde in Gemini. How has that been for you? Maybe look at your Gemini house. What's been going on for you in that place? What has been uncomfortable? What has been motivating, where has there been rage or irritation, all these Mars things, right? Where has it been sharp? You're going to be looking at that stuff and then trying to make intelligible decisions or like make it comprehensible, right? But with Mercury in Pisces, I don't know that the information is good. You know what I mean? Like there's still like widespread confusion going on here. If you are interested in confusing or hoodwinking someone, this is a great week to do that, especially with the full moon there. It's likely full moon will bring wild and strong emotions up. And so that's a really good time to like sort of pull the wool over somebody's eyes. Be aware in yourself. If you find yourself being super emotional in some kind of way, then wool might be being pulled over your eyes in that moment as well. Be aware of that. This is the kind of thing that can happen under these kinds of skies. So it's a good time to, make your arts real strong. Don't forget to journal about it, because you might want to come back and see what you've been thinking about this whole time, etc., etc. I'm out of time here. Again, if you would like a longer reading, maybe you want a 10-minute reading like this for your own self, you can find that at zambonifunk.com. Make sure and listen to the music just because it's good. I appreciate all y'all. See y'all next time.